Ladies and gentlemen, we got an update this past week. Jim Harbaugh, we talked about it, I believe it was a couple of podcasts ago. Now, Jim Harbaugh was suspended by the NCAA originally of being of some certain level 2 violations. It's essentially getting a recruit a hamburger. That's really what it barrels down to. And not only is it a hamburger, but essentially allegedly lying to the NCAA about these interactions because Jim Harbaugh doesn't really remember these particular events happening. So originally, what was supposed to happen was that Harbaugh and the NCAA, they came to a resolution. They settled on a 4-game suspension beginning 2023. It was to cover non-conference play for the Michigan Wolverines, and then he would also be out for the opener of Big Ten conference action against Rutgers. Well, it was supposed to be approved by the NCAA's Committee on Infractions. Usually it is a formality. It really is, but the NCAA decided to nick this, so this is going to be pushed to 2024 most likely. So what that means is that Harbaugh, he'll now be able to coach in the 2023 season in its entirety. So Michigan gets a nice little temporary boost for right now. They will have their coach for the entirety of this college football season, but it begs the question on what Harbaugh is going to do in 2024, right? So the NCAA disciplinary system, it's literally like spinning a wheel of fortune. You never know what you are going to get. But at the same time, past couple of off seasons, Jim Harbaugh really flirted with the idea of returning to the NFL. He was a head coach for the 49ers, actually was very good at the NFL level for quite some time, and then left the 49ers, became the head coach of his alma mater at the University of Michigan. And he's going into his 9th season, and it's going to be really intriguing to see what happens after this season if he does decide to go back to the NFL. Because, yeah, this is Harbaugh's 9th season there. He's built the program back up. The state of the program, certainly not the same. I would certainly argue better than when Jim Harbaugh first took the job. But dealing with all of this stuff from the NCAA, it makes you wonder if he wants to go back to the NFL should the right opportunity come around. I think that's a really interesting thing that could certainly happen because, again, who knows what is going to happen when the NCAA finally does make its decision. If he decides to just, we're not going to play with the NCAA. We're just going to go and coach at the NFL level, and what kind of effect that it could have in the coaching carousel. What would happen if we end up seeing Jim Harbaugh leave? Who does Michigan target? Does he do they do more of a national search, or they do what they did in the previous time that they were a part of the coaching carousel? Do they go and get themselves a Michigan man, per se? So I thought that was really interesting. I'm really curious to see what your thoughts are on that, because Jim Harbaugh is going to have his best team, I think, in the time that he's been at the University of Michigan. He is coming off back-to-back college football playoff appearances, did lose to TCU in the college football semifinal, but at the same time, though, he does have his quarterback. He's got Blake Corum, arguably one of the best backfields in the country in general. JJ McCarthy is an established starting quarterback. Say what you want about the kid, but dude is a top 10 quarterback. And then majority of the other starters on offense and defense also going to be back as well. So a team that could possibly make a run here. We've seen them take care of business in conference play, but can they finally get over the top on the national stage? Well, that remains to be seen, but Jim Harbaugh can certainly do something about that. And I'm saying this, I mean, you see the Ohio State, stuff in the background. Like, I'm more of an Ohio State supporter, more focused on being a Cincinnati Bearcats fan now. So I'm saying this as an Ohio sports fan, but Michigan might have their best team, and it's going to be real interesting to see how Jim Harbaugh handles that with the NCAA as a potential distraction with his possible punishment looming, because the NCAA will punish Jim Harbaugh. Like, he is not going to let him get away scot-free by any means. But I thought that was interesting. Read that on yahoosports.com. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens to Jim Harbaugh after this season. But, this Michigan team does, they might have the ingredients to really make something special. Maybe a certain something that hasn't happened since 1997. That's over 20 years ago. Maybe it's that type of team. Who knows?